a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Daga. This portion of the show is supported by Native Concrete and Masonry. Check out their work at nativeconcretemasonry.com and give Chuck a call at 612-597-0421.
Hey, give them a call. Hey, I just got home from God's Country an hour ago, and I'm glad I did. It is pitch black here in the Twin Cities right now, and my name is Wakanja Hade, which means distant thunder, and I hear a lot of distant thunder happening right now, and I'm scared, and my dog's scared. So if Arvina, if I end up getting off, you're gonna have to take over the show, but you and Haley. So we are here. With
whoever loses power first.
Right, thank you.
Well, it's sunny here, so if you need me to just go solo.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're here with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and we are so glad to have you for 3 segments today, because it always seems like we never get enough time. So thank you so much for being on. And
Absolutely.
All I have to say is go Kamala. Oh,
Yeah. I'm trying to scooch over here so you can see my sign. I need to fix it behind me. Unfortunately, this is not super fun for people that are listening on the radio, but it says "Vote Daga Joe and Nunu Kamala."
Uncle Joe and Auntie Kamala.
Big sister Kamala.
Oh, big sister. And then Daga Joe, which is Uncle Joe.
Yeah. So in Ho-Chunk. So I figured it's time to get that back up, and excited about Kamala. It's really exciting. I saw part of her rally last night in Atlanta, and heard from a friend that was actually there in Atlanta and said it was just absolutely electrifying.
now I know, Arvina, you're young,
Thank you.
but you probably do remember Obama and the electricity that was happening around his election. How do you compare?
I mean, this is it's kind of a combination of the excitement that I felt with both Obama's campaign and the Clinton campaign. Because she would be the first woman president, the first Black woman, the first Indian woman. She's just all firsts, and she's been knocking down these doors her entire career. And I feel like people that are used to doing that, kind of having to take on new battles that mean that they're the first at something, those folks really know what they're doing, because it adds an extra layer of pressure. And I know that when I was the first Native elected person to the Madison Common Council, I felt very, very conscious of that fact, and very much so felt that if I messed up, if I did something wrong or was bad somehow, that would ruin chances for any other Native candidates, male or female, in the future. And it's a big responsibility. So people that have these firsts, I think are really solid candidates, because they've had to work at it, and they've had to be extra good in order to break down people's stereotypes.
Well, you talked a little bit about Hillary Clinton, and we talk about this a lot when we reminisce. And there was a 30-year attack on her, and the amazing for many different reasons. But Kamala doesn't have that baggage that Hillary had, and I hope that helps out a lot too. And my producer here, Haley, my Chujunk here, put in the notes because Daga pilot needs a nap before the show, so he doesn't really know what the show's about until 5 minutes till. Um, but that Georgia last night had a max capacity, and the crowd was electric and loud.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that reminds me of Obama, and that's just amazing. I'm so happy.
I think the other part of it too is the effect that her now nomination is having on youth, and our Gen Z voters, and even kids in high school that are not eligible yet to vote. I know the day that it happened, my daughter, she thinks of politics as that's what her mom does for work and doesn't think about it the same way. She's because she's used to it, being surrounded by it. But she came into my bedroom that day and was like, oh my God, and was so excited. And that was really cool to see. She's 15, and seeing herself reflected. She was really little. She's 15, so she was very little during the Obama presidency, and it's just been white guys, and she sees herself, and I think that's remarkable, and I think that bodes well, for Democrats up and down the ticket, that we have this kind of energy, and we have this youth energy that is going into this campaign, because they're when young voters get out to vote, they change elections.
Absolutely, and I don't know if we had this conversation, but I talked to Haley, and I know I've brought it up on the show a bunch of times, but I talked to Haley a day after, and I go, "Oh my God, she got $50 million, like in 6 hours," and I started watching TikTok, and TikTok was blowing up and supportive, and that's young and old for me that I follow on TikTok, and I was like, I'm really happy. And Haley said, I donated money, and there you go. Gen Z got excited there, Haley.
Yeah, it was a lot of first-time donors, and a lot of that came from Gen Z, and they were small money donors, and those really can add up and help out campaigns such as this one. Arvina, I know that you attended the Zoom call that was for Native
Yeah.
women and Two-Spirit for Vice President Harris on Sunday, and
Yeah.
Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota spoke on that, Peggy Flanagan. How was it?
It was incredible. It was hosted by Jana Schmeeding, who was the star of Rutherford Falls, and also Bev on our favorite IHS worker, on Reservation Dogs. So she was the host, and it was amazing. It brought a lot of and I'm saying this in not a bad way, because it kind of felt familiar to me, like a PBS fundraising drive energy, just because of the way the backgrounds looked and everything. And she actually commented on the same thing. On that call, we raised, about, I believe, more than $30,000 for the
Yeah.
campaign from Native and Two-Spirit, or Native
Mhm.
women and Two-Spirit folks. Yeah, and we had lots of speakers. Another one of the Minnesota electeds, their name is Leash.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Liz.
Leash Kwiatkowski.
Yeah.
And I actually, very, very briefly met them, at the week before at the Advanced Native Political Leadership Native Power Building Summit. So that was really cool to see somebody that I had just met and didn't realize that they were a legislator. And it just, when you do this kind of work, there's not a lot of other Native people that are actively doing especially as a job, this kind of work. So it was really cool to see a bunch of other people that do this work across the country, joining in on this call. And we had over 1,000 participants, and that is amazing for such a small population group.
Hey, we're here with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and we're emerging with Wisconsin right now and talking politics. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio. Ooh-wah.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot. I want to talk to you about the rising energy costs and how you can manage them with the help of 952 Windows. Many people have plenty of insulation in their roof and attic, but the next significant step for energy savings is installing energy-efficient windows and doors. My good friend owns 952 Windows, a part of Loyal Home. They did a remodeling job on our home 20 years ago and definitely did a better job than the other guys. I've talked to neighbors over the years that experienced contractor problems with those other guys, especially when their window and door upgrades fell short in quality and energy efficiency. But when we made our second floor addition to our home, we used 952 Windows and received an excellent price and exceptional workmanship. Since then, we've seen much lower energy bills. So for your next home remodeling project, go with 952 Windows. Trust me, you won't regret giving them a call at 952 Windows or 952windows.com.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native-owned J.S. Bean Factory off Randolph Avenue in St. Paul. Only the good stuff keeps us awake.
We are awake, and hey, we are here with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and I guess we're just giggly and really excited right now and on the possibilities and how I was a Joe guy all the way, but I kind of feel the excitement not only like Obama, but I was really a big Bernie person. And every time he spoke, we'd donate, I think his average was $28.55 or something like that. Wendy and I would donate every time we saw him and they'd ask for it. But I feel like, I was going up to bed and Wendy was on her phone and she said, I just gave 50. And I went, gave 50 to what? And she says, Kamala. And I went, well, okay, right on.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Her candidacy has, it's been night and day. And I think that the decision, we talked about this a little bit last week, that the decision that the president made to step back, I think that it showed a lot of people as well, the amazing character that he has, and, stepping back and just going straight into endorsing his running mate and the person who has served, I think not that she needed that kind of credibility, but getting that kind of credibility is huge. And I think, Democrats, we're a big tent party. We don't always agree on every policy item. And because of that, we can get the reputation of being, disorganized and disunified. And to be able to see when that really, like, that kind of the differences in opinion are that differences in opinion. But it's been almost unbelievable to see the near universal support that she's gotten. And I think that says a lot about her work and where she is in her career and the things that she's done and accomplished in her career. And I think also says something very, very big about the moment that we're living in and people understanding, the consequences and the things that are at stake in this election, because there are a lot of things that many of us hold dear that are under threat with the possibility of a second term of Trump. I am concerned about being able to make decisions about my own body, and my daughter being able to make decisions about her own body. I'm worried about the other Trump wanting to give more tax breaks to wealthy corporations rather than to people that are being nickeled and dimed, here in their everyday lives and are just trying to survive. Healthcare. I really want to have healthcare. And getting rid of Obamacare, that's not it. There's just too much at stake, and I think that people are seeing what this moment is and rising to the occasion. And I think the moment that I loved when I saw clips from last night's Atlanta, Georgia rally was when the vice president basically said, "Say it to my face."
Yeah.
And just the way she said it was just so perfect. And she did it with kind of a bit of a smirk, but it wasn't like it was just kind of a knowing that they all got their undies in a bunch because your governor called them weird. Like, what?
Right.
Which,
Arvina,
by the way, I'm loving. The more I see Governor Tim Walz on TV, the more I love him. You guys are I love our governor here. Tony Evers is wonderful. But I'm glad our neighbor governor is Tim Walz, because he's pretty fantastic.
well, we've been starting to run again his I'm listening to Native Roots Radio bumper too, and he's a good friend, and we've been invited to a lot of things with the governor, and I have a lot of selfies. So if he ends up being the vice president candidate, wow, I'll be twice as cool. Hey, Arvina, I wanted to bring something up. I learn something new all the time when you're on here, and that's why
Yeah.
one of the main reasons why it's really exciting to have you on, and your reputation in Wisconsin and Indian country, and of course, Ho Chunk Nation is just stellar. So we're really blessed to have you on here. You said something that I never thought of, and that we have a big tent, and that's why it appears that we are disorganized. Can you elaborate a little more? Because that was a big light bulb in my head, because some of my complaints to the Democratic Party is they aren't organized.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that it's a lack of organization. It's just that because we want to be inclusive. I mean, you see the Trump campaign telling Nikki Haley voters, "We don't want you." Like, no, that's not how you win an election. That's not how you build a coalition. And to me, the Democratic Party is a bunch of coalitions that are coming together to work on things together in order to make things better for all of us. And so sometimes that means we don't agree on policy things, but that means that we just need to take time and go through and kind of see where everybody's at before we make decisions on who we vote for, or for legislators to make decisions on what kind of policy that they're going to put forth, or what their priorities are going to be, because there's just so many. And when you are inclusive, you're going to get more opinions, and maybe some of those opinions are not I don't want to say are not compatible, but maybe they clash in a way, and trying to work things out so things are best for everybody. It's a lot of compromise, and it's a lot of listening and learning about what's important to your neighbors, to your constituents, and then making your best decisions. As I believe it was Hillary Clinton who said, my goal is to do the best that I can do for the most people. And I think that that's what Democrats think of, is doing the most that you can for the most amount of people.
Yeah, definitely. And not to change the subject, but we got Bernie coming in town for Ilham, and then also, oh, it's really thundering here, and my poor dog's really scared.
Here.
Yeah.
He'll be in town on Saturday, this Saturday.
Thank
Ooh.
you, Haley.
Yeah, he'll be. Bernie Sanders will be in the Twin Cities area this Saturday with Ilhan Omar and Tina Smith, and they're going to be doing a rally and then going out door knocking.
Hey, one of the other things too, Arvina, is that if Walz he's a long shot, but if he became vice president, our lieutenant governor, who is the highest ranking Native American woman, would become governor.
That was my first thought when I saw his name on the list. and I actually that day that I heard was when I was at that Advanced Native Political Leadership group or that Native Power Building Summit, and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan was there. And the first time she was running as lieutenant governor was when I was running for Secretary of State. So we, had conversed online, but that was the first time that we'd ever met in person. And I couldn't believe she knew who I was. I was like, you meet people all the time. We've never met. And so that was cool. She's an incredible fighter, and you guys would be in great hands, with her as governor. And I would probably try to, see if I could go out and see her being sworn in as well, just because it's such a huge moment. Again, with the firsts,
Yes.
there's so much potential. I also heard that Governor Walz made it, I think there's like top 3 candidates, and he's still on the list.
Wow, that would be amazing. Yeah, we just had both Lieutenant Governor Lopez and Flanagan on Monday. And Rodriguez, yes. And thank you so much, Haley. This dog's just totally distracted me. I'm sorry. Thanks, Haley. And it was amazing. And it's always amazing to have those two on Native Roots Radio, the energy, the intelligence, and the political intelligence they both have.
Oh yeah, and in Wisconsin, Lieutenant Governor Rodriguez is also just a powerhouse. She has a career in the healthcare field, so her knowledge on all things related to health has been so instructive. And she's just a great leader, and she's participated and done lots with tribes in Wisconsin. She was speaking at a MMIW event a couple of years back, and I asked her if she had a ribbon skirt, and she didn't. So that meant I talked myself into making a ribbon skirt, 2 days before, so she would have something appropriate to wear. And she was very grateful, and she did a great job speaking to the issue and our concerns regarding missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. She's just on the ball.
Yeah, and we're totally blessed to have them on the show. Hey, one of the things, we're going to take a break here, and we have you for 3 segments, so it's really exciting. I want to ask you in the next segment how you got started, and who as a young person was a big influence on you. So I can't wait for those answers and kind of do the Arvina, this is your life. Well, you're too young to know that show too, but I'm really showing my age now. Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back with Arvina Martin and Haley Cherry and all the rest of you.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACD, in Minneapolis.
Hey, we are so happy to have Arvina Martin on. And Arvina, I want to know a little bit about your background, and then I want to talk about the Olympics that are happening right now. And we have a lot of representation there. And yes, Haley, I do read the script, but I have brain damage. I'm old elder. Oh, thank you. So tell us a little bit how you started, Arvina.
I mean, the home that I grew up in was always politically active. My dad was in fact a Republican, a sane Republican, and not one of the Trumper kind. Excuse me. And so it was always, and my mom actually served the Ho-Chunk Nation as a legislator as well. So, that kind of the idea of public service and working in the public for the public has always been something that I guess I kind of thought I would do. And I, worked after college, and I had moved to Arizona with my now ex-husband, and when I moved back, when we were splitting, I was like, I need to find a job. I would like it to be in a field that I like. And I started actually in 2010 or 2011. I can't remember. It must have been 2010 as a communications intern with the state party. But when that happened, I was only a communications intern for a couple of months when Scott Walker dropped the former governor, Scott Walker, dropped the bomb eliminating, public bargaining, collective bargaining. And so, yeah, so it turned into something different. And the party wanted to have a Native outreach director. And so I started in 2011 on the Walker gubernatorial campaign. And that was really where everything started. And started getting involved. It was hilarious. I remember that campaign, my parents being very active in the Wisconsin Native community. When people would meet me, they'd say, "Oh, you're Buck Martin's daughter?" I'm like, "Yeah." "And you work for the Democrats?" And I'm like, "Yep, I do." So it was a nice icebreaker for people that knew my folks. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's a great story. And I remember that.
One more? Yes. I just thought of the other one I was going to mention. When I was a little kid, it must have been 84. So I was like 3 or 4 years old at the time, or 4 years old. Jesse Jackson was running for president, and my dad wrote for a local paper that served communities of color here in Madison, and he got to interview Jesse Jackson, and I got to be the small child that was his photo op. And so I got he held me, and I was like, yay. And I apparently loved Jesse Jackson as a 4-year-old, and he would sit and listen to the tape of my dad's interview with him because I just loved the way he spoke.
Wow.
He's got very.
I am someone. I remember that when he was running.
He just has such a melodious, his sound. The way he speaks is almost musical, and I loved that as a kid. And when I went to the DNC, I was a delegate in 2012, and he was the first person I saw when I got off the bus, and I almost had a stroke. I was so excited.
That's awesome. Well, we have his daughter on AM 950 who does the morning show here in the Twin Cities. Yeah, from 7 to 8. Yeah, Sunita Jackson, and we're really proud of her. Let's jump. That's a great story, and that's awesome. Hey, let's jump into the Olympics.
I've been a nerd the whole time.
Say that again? Oh,
I've been a nerd my whole life.
Yeah, I love politics too, but from the 60s and 70s when things were upside down in a lot of ways, and with remembering at least Bobby Kennedy. I was too young to remember John F. Kennedy, but that 1968, and just to back up real quick here, is that the Chicago convention for the DNC is happening, and when Kamala was being endorsed by Joe, I was really worried that we were going to have another 1968, and that is not even close to the fact that everyone jumped aboard and there's no dissension amongst the ranks. And I'm just excited. I think that's part of why I'm kind of skipping and have a jump in my step too, because I've really listened to a lot of politics now in the last 15, 20 years and really gotten into it with pipelines and things like that, and wolves and just being native. Let's talk a little bit about, we have a history of Olympians, and I know Billy Mills is still alive, and his race was amazing in 1964, and he's in Paris right now. But, one was quoted as the greatest athlete in the first half of the 20th century, Jim Thorpe. And he was Bo Jackson before Bo Jackson was around. He played professional in baseball, football. He was the first NFL commissioner, and all these great things that as time goes on, people forget, but we don't hear in Indian country. I mean, he won those Olympic medals and on and on.
One of the hills that I will always die on is that Jim Thorpe was the greatest athlete of the 20th century. I mean, you just listed all of the sports that he was good at. Basically, if he tried a sport, he was the best at it. He was just that good. Competing, racism made it so someone threw his shoes away and he had to find shoes in the garbage. And he still won a gold medal. And I mean, think about Michael Jordan, who everybody was like, oh yeah, he's the best athlete of the 20th century. Do you remember when he tried to play baseball? Like, he was great at basketball and like not necessarily like that bad at baseball. Like, he was still better than a lot of people, but he wasn't.
He never made it to the majors. And what was always struck me is when he had the Chicago baseball uniform on, he looked like a little kid.
And you'd never say that about Jim Thorpe. He just dominated it at everything he tried. And I ordered a T-shirt from the NTVS new line about athletes. I ordered one of the Bright Path T-shirts that I plan on wearing at the convention. Yes, I'm putting together my wardrobe already 2 weeks ahead of time, but I want to represent. And Jim Thorpe is one of those people that we need to represent.
Absolutely.
He's just fabulous. And actually when he competed with his two different shoes, one that was too big and one that was like too small, he had two different size socks. And when I skate roller derby, I wear one long sock and one short sock in honor of Jim Thorpe.
Wow.
Thinking about his journey and things that he did and the barriers that he broke down.
Yeah, well, whenever you see different shoes and the number 1912, because that was the year of the Olympics, that's what it represents.
And we've got a couple in the Olympics now. There's a few Native Hawaiians that are representing Team USA. Haley and I were talking about it beforehand. I believe in surfing and in like beach volleyball. So hooray for our Kanaka Maoli brothers and sisters. Like, that's awesome. I know that there's a native swimmer from, I think it's called the Kenai tribe in Canada. So as a former swimmer, having a native swimmer, even if they're Canadian and not American, is really exciting to me as well.
Yeah. And good reason to watch the Olympics. And I can't wait until there's a real good movie on I know there have been over the years Jim Thorpe movies that are kind of corny, and also Billy Mills movies. I think Robbie Benson played him in the 80s.
I actually remember seeing that movie when I was little about Billy Mills. And the one thing I remember from that movie was a quote where he was writing a letter to his family back home, and he said that he felt so busy he felt like a fancy dancer with one leg tied behind his back. So I still remember that part.
That's hilarious, and it's hilarious what you do remember. Oh, Arvina, I'm going to let you in the next 2-3 minutes here just spitball about your Emerge Wisconsin here and how we can support you, especially it's a year-round thing where we want to get women involved in politics, and we have to just talk about it every time because it's so important. It's 51% of the population here is women.
Yeah, well, and you were talking earlier about feeling more engaged in politics and seeing your spot in it. And we're finding Native people finding that more often. And I would love to get more Native women and more non-binary folks that feel comfortable in female-centered spaces. We also need that representation for our Two-Spirit family. And we will be opening up our applications on Labor Day for our class of 2025. I've already been talking to several really amazing Native women leaders that I hope will join us. We have 2 Native women in our current class, and I'm hoping next year we get 3, because we had 1 in my first class. So just keep building that. The work that electeds do, I mean, it could be such a boon to tribal communities, and having people on that side of the equation that understand what tribal sovereignty means and understand that working with tribes and tribal governments is the same as working with or similar to, comparable rather, to working with county governments, state governments, across different governmental bodies, and treating Native electeds with the same respect that they treat their peers, because they are peers.
Right.
And I'm just really excited to see, and I'm hoping that the excitement from this election helps us, and we can get some more Native people, Native men, women, and non-binary folks on ballots on spring elections next year, running for school board, running for your town council, etc., county boards. Let's get more of us in there.
Absolutely. And I got my Kamala doll here, my action figure here. And so thank you so much, Arvina. We just enjoy having you on here. And yes, you are, I hope Representative Heather Keeler's not listening, but one of the best guest hosts we have here on Native Roots Radio. We really appreciate you. And we got to get both of you guys together and maybe have a guest off.
Absolutely. Or a collaboration.
Perfect. That's better. Hey, thanks again, Big Teeny Gigi. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Honey Chuck Joey.
Honey Chuck Joey. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we'll be right back after this short break with Bob Blake from Red Lake.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Bonjour, hello. My name is Wabin. I am an enrolled member of the White Earth Nation, descendant of the Navajo Nation, and co-chair of the Indigenous Employee Resource Group with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. MnDOT is hiring for a variety of positions from road maintenance to accounting and more. We offer great benefits. For more information or to set up a one-on-one resume and application assistance, visit mn.gov/careers, or you can text or call 612-257-2388. 612-257-2388.
Hi, I'm Chuck Manette, owner of Native Concrete and Masonry. With concrete and masonry adding substantial value to your home, it's always a great idea to repair your sidewalks or just add a beautiful new patio. Cracks or heaving in your sidewalks due to tree roots can be dangerous. Native Concrete and Masonry has helped clients across the metro to make their outdoor space safer and helped increase the value to their homes. For patios, sidewalks, driveways, or garage slabs, go to nativeconcretemasonry.com.
You may have seen a certain truck in videos being shared on social media. How about the truth? I have yet to see any video of that truck outperforming the Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota. I've driven Sienna since 2006. They handle the highways great, handle back roads, and handle 3 inches of snow a lot easier than the so-called super truck. Plus, my Sienna Hybrid is super fuel efficient, tows great, has enough room for tons of gear, and doesn't look like it was drawn by a 6-year-old. Sienna wins. Test drive the top of its class Sienna today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, we're here with our friend Bob Lake from Red Lake. You guys have to say that real quick once. And then also Solar Bear with the Solar News. And before we get going, Bob, I want to congratulate you on another award. I feel like I'm every time you get an award, I feel like I got an award. So congratulations.
Yeah, that was from the World Resources Institute and the Bezos Earth Fund around the electrification of, the EV charging network. And, they mentioned the training of the Returning Citizens Initiative with the inmates on solar installations in the prison system. And they were just talking about all this stuff. And I was like, it's hard too, right, Robert, because the seven grandfather teachings and everything, it's like you got to have humility and you can't be bragging,
Right.
It's like, it's so hard for our people, right? But I know that we have to let people know that we're still here and everything, but I just like have so much hard time with that. But I do appreciate it, and I do feel great that they want to recognize work. And I've gotten some great contacts out there for some more work to happen with the electric school buses for the kids around tribal country. And this is turning into now a national effort around the charging stations and the electric bikes and the glow in the dark bike pass that we want to do in tribal country. And all the stuff that's happening, it's just been really crazy. And so I'm really getting some folks that are really excited to support this work. And I'm very appreciative of those foundations, such as the Bezos Earth Fund and others out there that want to help Solar Bear, Native Son, implement all this stuff. So, thank you, Robert. I really do appreciate it.
It's amazing. We don't talk about your brother a lot, but I know Bill would be busting his buttons if he were still with us, and I believe he is still with us.
It was Bill that, I thought I was going to be a cop. I just thought I was going to be a cop. I thought I was going to be a cop like Bill. I thought that's what I was going to do with my life. And then, they were like, hey, Bob, we're going to hire you, but we don't have money right now. So you're going to have to just find something else to do for a while. And I went back to school and took a course on renewable energy and got hooked, and the rest is history. And I was like, I can't stop this. I don't want to be a cop anymore. I think there's other ways to help our people and consequently the planet. And I just felt like this was just a far more righteous cause to dedicate my life to. And so I'm so happy, though, Robert, to this day. Not that I wouldn't want to serve the people of Minneapolis and be a police officer, do those same things that my brother and my uncle and my cousin, Robert Thunder, out there right now, patrolling the streets of Minneapolis right now. Big shout out to him and for all the great work that he does. But I just love what I do, and I'm so happy, Robert, that I found this path in my life, and I'm so thankful to the Creator that He put this in front of me. So. Yeah.
Just think, I hired you for a weekend too, made you drive to Iowa and hand out T-shirts to people I didn't want you to hand them out to. And we had press passes and what was yours? Key grip or best boy?
I was best boy, wasn't I? Oh, I thought I was best boy. I think I was best boy. I was like, we had such a good time though.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, the studio, we started this, you told me to come on in the studio. We're like, Bob, can you just talk about renewable energy and climate change and environmental justice? And I was like, okay. And we just won it. And it turned into, and everybody just got interested now. And all of you, thank you for listening to the program and supporting all this, because it just has evolved over the years. It's been years now, Robert. And and just to see where the solar industry has come, the renewable energy industry, and all this environmental justice work. And, we were talking about all this stuff before it really, it was happening, but it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? The way it is now. It's
this is our 8th year, and you were on the first year. So
I can't believe. And Robert, which I think is a perfect segue into the brand new solar data sheet, Robert. This just came out, and this is put out by the Solar Energy Industry Association. I just want to give some statistics out there, Robert. There are 263,883 people across Turtle Island, right, across the country, United States right now, that are employed by the solar industry. And I think that's incredible. I remember when this thing was down in like the, 90,000 range or something. Like I remember it wasn't even.
That was a big deal. And that was a big deal at 90,000.
Exactly. Today, over 6% of U.S. electricity comes from solar energy, almost 6 times its share a decade ago. Robert. This was 2 years. I mean, this is 2 years before, the program started, that we started doing this together. I mean, that's how far this has come. I just think that's incredible. Number of businesses in the U.S., 10,000 plus businesses. So everyone, your dollars do matter, and who you spend them with. And with those corporations that are switching to renewable energy, they need to lead the way. And we need to be able to spend our dollars at those places that are doing this. And let me give you a few. Meta is number 1, Amazon is number 2, Apple is number 3, Walmart is 4, Microsoft is 5, Target is 6, Cargill is 7. Remember Cargill, everybody. That's going to come up in a future conversation. I'm just throwing that out there, everybody. Kaiser Permanente, AB and Anheuser-Busch, and EVAS North America. So those are the top 10 corporate users of renewable energy. There is enough solar energy installed in the U.S. to power 36.1 million households. In 2023, a new solar project was installed every 39 seconds. Yeah. Every 39 seconds, everyone. Carbon emissions reduced 222 million metric tons annually, equivalent to 53 million vehicles off the road, 25 billion gallons of gas not used, everyone. So remember, the whole concept of the Electric Tribal Nation project, right, or the EV project, was to explain to the fossil fuel industry that they can build these pipelines, right? But they're not gonna win the battle, but they're not gonna win the war, right? And this is a perfect example of this happening. Because 25 billion gallons of gas is not used. 3.7 billion trees planted. This is the equivalent of shutting 57 coal-fired plants, Robert. In 2023, solar became the first renewable technology in 80 years to make up the majority of additions to the U.S. grid, accounting for 55% of all new generating capacity. This is remarkable how much this technology, Robert, has come down in price. This is on par with natural gas. And I mean, this is going to be the future for the country. And we can put solar everywhere. Anyone can learn how to do this. And that's the exciting thing. It's so democratic. And so that's why I love doing this work. And Robert, that is the Solar Bear with the Solar News.
Big Peeny Gigi, thank you. And again, congratulations. And thank you so much for coming on all these years. It's been just fun hanging out and watching us both grow.
Yes. And like I said, Robert, get out and vote, get out and run for office, get out and start a company, get out and start a nonprofit. We're Native, get out and get advanced college degrees. Robert, you're such an inspiration. I've done all that. I've listened to your advice, and I suggest everyone else do the same.